So I just found this spot, and I actually was filming for Instagram Reels real quick, but I found this spot, and I was like, I need to make a YouTube video with this spot because I love it so much. They got the tree, and then it's just kind of like a cliff down there with like trees and everything. And so I don't know what we're gonna talk about today, but I wanted to create this because of this spot. I think it's so cool. Like, hopefully I don't get ticks because I'm under this tree, but yeah. So let me think about what I'm gonna talk about. I'm thinking, and I'm looking at here, and I'm just sitting in the middle of a forest, and I was just thinking about how strange it is about this idea of branding, right? That's what I do. I'm a videographer, I'm a content director, and I help people build these brands. And what that inherently means is that I create content for people, for other people to consume. And yet it's like when you're creating content, when you're starting a personal brand, it's like you don't want to consume more than you create. You want to create more than you consume. However, by creating content, you're creating something to hopefully, even the end goal is for it to be consumed. And so it's like you want to not be consuming, yet you're creating something to be consumed. Does that make sense? And I was just sitting here and I was just thinking about how, like, what a strange dichotomy to have as a job, where it's like my main goal is for people to consume this content, and hopefully, I think there's a difference between just like going viral and then like actually trying to help people, and there's a difference in how that plays out. But the dichotomy is still there of like, there's this thing that I don't want to do, and yet I want other people to do it. And it's like there's something really strange about that. And the only through line that I can really find through that is that there are different types of content that you can create. And I think this kind of plays into me taking a philosophy course this past summer. I swear this ties in together. Just hang with me for a second. But one of the most apparent things to me was that our quality of thoughts and just as a society, like it almost makes us seem dumb. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but the way that these philosophers think and the way that they write out their thoughts, it's like, God. And then compare that to what you see today on social media and content and people building their personal brand and the thing that I, help with. It's like there's such a just stark difference in the quality of thoughts. And so I think as I'm going on this journey, as I'm building this business, I think it's really important to me, as I'm talking through this even, that the way that I help brands and the way that I help founders, entrepreneurs build their personal brand for their business is in a really genuine way that actually helps people. And I think that starts with accepting clients that I want to work with. I think that's a really important part. As I've worked with different people, there are different people that I vibe with, and there's some learning aspect to that. But I think that there is a real intuition and a real sense of, if I make content for this person, I can probably figure out how to make content for this person, given that they're in the position to actually invest in their personal brand. But if I do that for them, will that help other people? Because the cost of me creating content for them is that other people are going to consume this. I think more often than not, creating more than consuming is a good thing to live by in today's world. And so if there's a cost of people consuming, I at least want that to be helpful. Or at the very least, the content to be directed towards something that the entrepreneur, their business, helps people. And so just thinking through this is genuinely just like, this is like the definition of yapping, because I really don't have any direction to go with this, but I just think that it's very important for us as, if you're creating a personal brand, if you're trying to create content online and you're watching this and you're like, for some reason, if you're watching this for some reason and it's like, how do I go about creating content? And I think the end goal with content is to help people, and to flip that as like the driver for any content that you create, instead of being like, okay, how can this get me views? How can this go viral? Like, how can I get clients? And it's like, I think with business, I think the big thing with like business and capitalism and things that get misunderstood is that the highest leverage thing that you can do is to help people. And a byproduct of helping people is in the society is that you will make money. Like if you help people, you will make money by as a byproduct, and you will grow your personal brand as a byproduct of helping people. And I think that's the thing that's really hard for people to understand, because it's such a long-term game of like when you start helping people and when you actually see that byproduct. But if you start with trying to make money and just growing online for, vanity's sake or whatever, you might get there, but you're probably going to burn out and switch and like do a whole different thing. And I think that's just not talked about enough when it comes to personal brand. Like, yeah, there are all these tactics, there are all these things that you can do to how to structure, how to build a personal brand and how to do all of these things. But, kind of with how I started this, it's like, I don't think consuming content is necessarily a good thing, because you will probably get stuck in this cycle of just like other content, more and more and more content that's like supposed to be entertaining and supposed to be, like doom scrolling. Like that's not good. Doom scrolling is not good. But if you see something or you read something and you're like, wow, that really like sparked this idea for myself, or that I really like that idea. Oh, that's really helpful. And you actually are able to apply that information. And that's the key. You have to be able to apply that, or else it does nothing. I think that's the one benefit of consuming content, is because you get all of these outside experiences that you would not otherwise have access to. And I think that's where social media and branding and all of this can really come into play, is helping other people out with things that they probably wouldn't have access to normally. I think when we think about creating content, it's like there's such low effort being put into the helpfulness of it. And even now, like as I'm like I could have put more effort into this and thinking of like, now obviously, like I said at the beginning of the video, like I just found this spot, and so I was like, I wasn't even planning on recording another YouTube video, so there's that. But like I could have came back to this spot. I could have been like, okay, this is a cool spot, come back to it, wrote down all of these thoughts in a more structured way that's easier to consume, and honestly easier for me to edit later on, because this is going to be terrible time editing because of how much I'm just rambling on. But make it more concise, have it be more applicable to your life, give better examples, give better things. But it's like you can like sit down and think about that instead of thinking about like, okay, hook, retention, okay, cool, how can I, build this story so people like consume it longer? And it's like, what about if we started with okay, what do they get out of this? What does the audience, what do you, the viewer, get out of watching this video? It's like, okay, let's start with that. And it's like, okay, hopefully, as I'm thinking about this, it's like, hopefully you get the idea that if you were able to help other people as the first input into this content machine, then the output will be all of the things that you want. It just might be on a longer time horizon. And not to say that you can't use some of those hook and retention things, pattern interrupts, all of that, and building a good story with your content, and making it look nice with a camera and all of that. But I do think that consuming can be good when it inspires you. And I think that's a little bit of what happened with these philosophers that I was reading for this intro to philosophy class. So we touched on different topics, and so I was able to read different philosophers and varying opinions on things and whatnot. And just being able to read them, even if I didn't agree with them, I could still respect their opinion because it was so well thought out. But I might not agree with them, and it's like, oh, there's this flaw here, but it's like, they really put time and effort into that, and they were really trying to help people understand the world a little bit better, and I can respect that. And so I think in a similar way with content, even though it's not written out, or it's not in a book, or it's not in a manifesto, or a discourse or something, there is this body of work that we put out into the world as content that builds our personal brand as these like little mosaic pieces. And I think the more intention behind it to help other people with whatever thing that you're doing, instead of just trying to like gain from it, I think, one, it's more sustainable that way with that mindset, and two, you will see more benefit from it. It's like it's the whole paradox of life, is like, the more you want something, the less likely you're gonna have it, or whatever that is. But yeah, I just wanted to film this video because I thought this was a really cool spot with this tree. This is a sick tree, and I hope that helps. I know this is like super rambling and super random, but yeah, thanks for watching. Appreciate it.